The reviews and real-life tests of the M2 13-inch MacBook Pro have started coming out. And if there was not enough reasons why you should not buy this laptop, those reviews have revealed yet another reason why you should really not buy it. In this video, we're going to discuss what's been going on with those reviews. And obviously, as always, at the end, I'm going to tell you my opinion regarding why this, of all the buys you could, of all the money you could give Apple, this is the worst reason of all. Let's get to it. Let's start giving credit where credit is due. A YouTuber called Max Tech, I'm going to add their channel below, is the person who has made these real-life tests and has figured out that apparently the SSDs on these new 13-inch M2 MacBook Pros are actually worse than the previous version. Right now you can see in the screen the information. This is actually from Max Tech, credit to them, of the read and write speeds. In the case of the 13-inch M1 256 gig MacBook Pro, it had a read speed of 2,900 megabytes per second. The M2 counterpart had a read speed of 1,446. That is almost half the speed. In the case of write speed, the old version, the M1 version, had 2,215 megabytes of write speed, and the new version has 1,463 megabytes per second. Now, there's a reason why the difference between read and write is so drastic. In the case of read, it's easier to just read the information. You're not actually adding new information or writing new information into the memory. That's why normally read speeds are much faster than write speeds. Now, as you could see, in the case of the M1 13-inch MacBook Pro, the difference between read and write was really close. It was not that far, which is the same thing that we could say for the M2. The problem is that it's obviously, in the case of read speed, it's half the speed of the older version. Now, many of you might not think that this is such a big deal. The problem is not only that. This is things that you keep adding onto the many reasons why you shouldn't buy this MacBook Pro. It's a 2016 design. The previous version has faster SSDs, and if you actually go to a store, or you can even search for it refurbished on Apple's website, it'll probably be cheaper than this new version. I also want to show you guys, before I continue with all the reasons as to why this new MacBook Pro is not a good option. Max Tech also opened the M2 13-inch MacBook Pro and saw that the reason why the old one is so fast is because it has basically like two memory cards, 128 gigabytes for the total of the 256, and it's easier for it to write simultaneously in both memories at the same time. Now it's just writing on just one 256 gigabyte drive. It's not writing on both of them at the same time. I'm guessing, and they also say the same thing, and I agree, that that is probably the reason why it is so slow. To finish, is that the M2 processor is not that much faster than the M1. And I honestly think that if you buy the MacBook Air, the difference between the M2 13-inch and the MacBook Air M2 will be so small that it will be a much better choice for you just to buy the M2 MacBook Air, even if it doesn't have any fans. Because the only difference between the M1 MacBook Air and MacBook Pro was that the MacBook Pro had fans, and it kind of gave it a little bit better performance, but it wasn't that much. I honestly think that they're not going to give, especially with all this pushback that they've gotten with the MacBook Pro. I don't think they're going to have, I don't think they're going to put the same slow SSDs into the MacBook Air. So the MacBook Airs are probably going to have either the same ones from the M1 MacBook Pro or maybe even faster read and write speeds because they're not going to risk it. And at that point, it will probably perform the same or maybe even faster than the M1 MacBook Pro or the M2, MacBook Pro. If you want to see the test, I honestly, I suggest that if you're interested in buying a computer, you go to Max Tech. When the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros came out, they basically bought one model of each version of every MacBook Pro from the 14-inch to the 16-inch that Apple sold in order to do a complete review of all of them and tell you if the upgrades are actually worth it. So in my opinion, if you want to buy and you want to know the nitty-gritty regarding all these devices, Max Tech is a great channel for you guys to watch. I'm going to leave their description down below. While you're down there in the comment section, if you have something to say regarding what we talked about today, leave it down in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can get notified when we have new videos. Remember, if you have a Google account, or Gmail account, you have a YouTube account. Sign in to YouTube with your Gmail and subscribe so you can help us grow. Maybe in the future, if everything works out, I will be able to be the one giving you this real life test and letting you know firsthand if that is exactly the case. Remember, we're available on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and obviously YouTube at JRAvenstech so you can stay up to date with the latest news and rumors about tech. Until next time.